and welcome to
Apollo Justice, Part 53.
Poor Apollo.
This is still
We'll
his
see you in
game.
a few years, Apollo.
This is Phoenix Wright bringing you a PSA to remind you that, yes, this is still Apollo's game. Even though really this whole plan is mine and he's a great assistant at that.
Yeah, but it's not called Apollo Justice Ace Assistant.
Yes,
Maybe we misnamed it.
How'd you misname attorney with assistant?
Anyway, quiet now, Apollo. Testimony time.
But...
I arrived at the hospital room at the appointed time, which is to say 11:20 p.m. After discovering the body, I fulfilled my obligation, then called in the doctor.
Doctor, I shot him.
That
Jesus.
must have really surprised
The
David
doctor
Tennant.
examined the body before the police arrived.
Shot through the head. Yep, he's definitely dead.
He was quite clear about the time of death, 11:10 p.m.
That sounds certain.
And the one in the room at the time was my partner, not me.
Alright then.
Those times are rather close, you have to admit.
True.
Not a single moment to mess up.
You're talking about an alibi established over a matter of minutes.
We've had weirder.
To use a 10-minute discrepancy as the basis of your alibi.
It's most unorthodox.
Is easy to explain in this situation, Herr Judge. For example,
Please don't bring up my first case.
take our debut. It's 13 years hard time for love.
Oh, thank God he's not.
Nobody cue to the song, press the play button. It will play for 2 minutes, 15 seconds, and this is important. Why?
Hold on, maybe it's the relativity
Analogy.
of time.
Do it 100 times, the result is the same.
Except he's
what?
heard a shitty song 100 times.
Brilliant!
I stopped following
Their
you.
debut single was only 2 minutes and 15 seconds long? What a ripoff!
I'm sorry.
Hey,
if it-
I'm sorry,
What's
Phoenix.
wrong with that?
How is this relevant?
Magic is a world of utmost precision. Hocus Pocus requires admirable folk.
Well, I had a case over. Well,
Dwibs, have you seen the focus of the plot? I have seemed to have lost it.
You can find it in Nowhere Avenue.
And no time of death. Blah, blah, blah. You know what? I'm not even.
You know, my head
Right.
can't
That as well.
The prosecution warns us that we're dealing with rather precise times,
The-
and we can
I-
expect the cross-examination to require the same level of precision.
there's
You
something
know,
when the
I
judge is
guess
the one
it's
who has
supposed to
to
be the judge's
translate for him.
I guess it's supposed to be Judge's translation of Clavier's garbage.
My head canon is that at this point the localizers were already burned out, so we just scrambled some gibberish for translation and said, there, that's what Clavier said.
Point taken. Baseless remarks will result in a penalty. Yeah, basically, if you press an irrelevant statement, you'll get a penalty.
Of course, we always have this moment at some point in an Ace Attorney game. Carry on. Right.
It was what? Yes, that was worth wasting that a whole minute of screen time. Thanks, game.
Don't worry, we've only got like an hour and 16 left.
Oh God, this.
Hold it!
game.
I don't think I'm stepping out on a limb to say I have some doubts about this.
This game just gets worse the more I re-watch. In this case, rewatch it. But you know what I mean.
How could the doctor be so precise with the time?
He's a doctor.
Well,
he has
he's
to
a
be.
doctor. Isn't
Well,
that part
let's
of the
actually
job?
be more specific about that.
We do usually only get an estimated time of death.
Yeah, that's the thing. How's he certain?
All right.
I'm not sure I've heard of a verified time of death.
I guess.
It's an important detail.
Magic revels in making the complex appear simple, but reality is the opposite.
True.
What do you think? What do you think you're in the Matrix?
Just think of this game.
What appears complex in this case is a simple matter of subtraction.
But
There you
we're
go.
not in the bloody Matrix.
There you go. Valant just described this game's plot. Very good.
I see another person has done their arithmetic homework.
So let me get. Okay, so let me get
Hold
this
on,
straight.
hold on.
The point here is the IV the victim was taking. So basically, our entire case right now is based on purely on maths and music.
Wait for it, Pedro. They're gonna
So,
explain.
So,
It's quite visible in the photograph of the scene.
so do we need to ask help to the Tandy computer whiz kids?
No.
Yes. Recall what we heard earlier about the victim. Magnify Grammary's schedule.
1 p.m. at like 2 p.m.
Every night at 11, Magnify took an IV drip for 30 minutes. Okay.
I can see the IV bag right there, yes.
Very good. Now, look a little closer. Follow the tube down from the bag to the end.
Ah! The needle's been removed!
Mm-hmm.
Oh noes. Doubtlessly, it fell out when he was shot.
That would seem to be the case.
Makes sense. Heightened bout of blood pressure with the bullet being jammed in can cause that sort of mayhem.
But there's an actual wound on the...
Tio.
Yeah.
The entire body is connected via the blood.
When the needle comes out, the IV no longer drips.
No, I know that. What I'm saying is that you need an entry point for the needle in the arm. And if this was removed by the bullet, you know, there should be still a mark where the needle entered.
Oh,
Tio,
Tio, hold on. Tio, it
Precisely.
wasn't so much that the bullet actually entered in through the arm. No, it was because the bullet entering in through his head is what caused the increase.
Exactly, but there should be still like a minor scar or something. Somebody say, oh, the needle
From the
was
needle
here, but
itself,
it
not
popped
from what the
out.
bullet did, but from
Oh,
the needle
that.
itself going in the first place. That isn't
Like,
there.
if I have something jammed in my hand and I get shot and that the reaction makes that thing squeeze out of my hand, there should still be a hole in my hand.
Oh, there's a tiny dot actually where the needle was.
Teo, they
Believe me,
didn't.
job I operated in hospital, there are no such thing as tiny hole for people who have that kind of treatment.
Well, it's because of how tiny the needle was in this case.
Also, Teo, they didn't manage to get bellboys right. What makes you think they're gonna get hospitals
Also,
right?
I
Oh,
don't
it's
think
all-
hospital needles are actually that small.
Actually, they are. My mom's a doctor, and I've actually seen her use ones that small. It's called the butterfly needle.
10 minutes had passed since the horrible terror crime was committed, and this is proof.
Okay, basically, to sum it up, basically what happened was like, well, because the machine was hooked up to the IV, it was able to register exactly the time when he was shot, because when he got
It's
shot...
the equivalent of the pocket cock gets smashed around the time the victim was murdered.
Oh, nice. Well, seeing how it is the biggest clue we have to the time of death, I'd say it's very important.
All right.
Agreed. It would be hard to imagine a more precise way to determine the time.
There was indeed a true meaning to these dual
Behold
screens.
the power of arithmetic!
Math does come in handy.
Josh, what are you doing?
Okay.
I think
Very
the
well.
I think the judge is starting to become senile.
The witness will add this detail to his testimony about the
Judge,
power of arithmetic.
You're implying he wasn't already
Sometimes the
senile.
most magical thing of all is
Don't.
the truth.
I think I say is maths.
The truth is stranger than fiction. Yada yada yada.
I wish we were
The
doing
water
that
of life springs are not eternal. The remaining IV liquid proves my innocence.
Huh. How weird that scientific terms are what prove the innocence of a magician. Hold it! Did you notice the IV yourself, by any chance?
When first I entered that room, the stench of gunpowder assailed me.
You know, I just realized something
Who's
interesting.
scratching around for popcorn or whatever?
Next, the mark of death upon my mentor's forehead. And then, left arm did. I spy a rose drooping and wilted.
Basically the exit wound.
It's for the discarded IV needle.
Huh. There you go.
Whatever, I don't even care. Knocked from the vein by the force of the shot. Luckily for you.
Okay.
I guess we can assume the reason the wound doesn't show up in the photo is because forensic probably wiped it for blood when the photo was taken.
True.
If that idea not
possibility.
being there, why, you might be a suspect.
Undoubtedly so. It's so convenient for me, don't you see?
Indubitably.
Indubitably.
Whatever.
Indubitably.
You know what's funny? We mentioned how Valen actually feels like a character good enough to be in the original trilogy. Well, here he is, technically in the part of the game that emulates the original trilogy.
I might say that it's thanks to my lucky color, peace yellow.
Your lucky color.
Indeed, even today I very proudly pawn my suspect self.
Alliteration.
Well, not as much as he's older. I guess the older he becomes, the more alliteration happy he gets. For he's always, without fail, brings me luck.
That's nice.
Okay. Why then, Zack and Valent were their first Magician Grand Prix.
Hey, the Magician's Grand Prix! I remember that from Farewell My Turnabout Big Top.
Yes, the very one held by the Association of International Magicians. So I guess Maximilian Galactica did not won that one that year.
Guess
And was
so.
adorned in this attire then too, and our trophy, a bust. What a day that was.
Oh, there they got the bust at least from Turnabout Big Top.
This is one trip down memory lane no one needs.
Understatement of the
Phoenix.
century.
There you go, Turnabout Big Top joke.
My lucky color, yes indeed. And that AV too.
Magicians, magicians.
You know that jab at Turnabout Big Top would have worked fine if it wasn't in the game that's actually worse than the one that Turnabout Big Top come
I
from.
say, I think was hued especially for me, Valak.
Yeah, I think at this point, Big Top is actually better than.
I'm actually surprised. Like it keeps the way the phrases are composed. Like he keeps mentioning obviously color, but he never mentions it directly. That's weird.
They were trying not to be obvious with it.
Well, I don't mean for the sake of a joke or anything. Just say, like adding to the phrase yellow. You know.
I
Like,
guess.
it makes me wonder if whoever wrote did not knew what color was Valent's best.
About this lucky color. It certainly sounds like your lucky colors brought you plenty of luck.
Oh, that I guess the
But
person.
not this time.
I guess the translator was colorblind. I don't know.
It's just reference to a color. We don't need to look too deep into it. Mr. Valen, your lucky colors betrayed you.
I'm afraid you lost me.
Join the club, asshole.
Ha! Your Honor! The witness's testimony just now clearly contradicts the evidence.
Dun, 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 dun. Oh, sorry.
Dwibs? Oh, he's there.
Whoa.
Say what? Now that's me. Please recall my warning at the beginning of this cross-examination, Mr. Wright.
That reminds
Yes.
me of a flashback.
Baseless accusations will be duly penalized.
True.
I do hope this latest accusation is well based. Hashtag based.
Don't worry. I've got all your bases right here.
All your bases
Bases
are
are belong
belong to us.
God damn it, game. Very well, let's hear the defense's claim.
Bases
have no
loaded,
chance
ready for a home run.
This game has no chance to survive. Make your time.
What do you say? Where is your evidence that contradicts what Mr. Valentes told us? The badge. The badge. Come on.
Not yet. Take that! The crime scene tells all, Your Honor.
Have we ever tried actually presenting the badge in the middle of a courtroom?
Well, there was that one time I did it.
It just gives you the generic wrong evidence.
No.
thing.
Not necessarily. There's actually one moment when you can present it. Granted, I mean, you...
Oh, all this talk of color is yummy, yearning for black and white. Clear-cut simplicity. There you go, Ted. There's your answer. Tell us, all right? Just where is the contradiction in this photo?
Hi guys.
Hey, Dwibs.
What's all of a miss then?
Oh,
Nothing.
basically, we've actually established that there's a contradiction regarding the crime scene.
Okay.
Something to do with Valent's color?
And colors.
Lucky color?
But I can't promise anything in black and white.
Too bad the colors don't feel so right on this one.
Let's hear what Mr. Wright has to say.
I know
White
I'm bright.
Right.
What in this photo contradicts this testimony?
Well, clearly the color of the AV because it's green. So.
Yeah.
Take that!
Yeah. I nearly said take that.
Valent Grammary, let's get one thing straight about your lucky color.
Your
Spelled
color is
wrong.
not pissed yellow. It's
Oh,
pure
there you go.
green.
It's yellow, yes.
Did you piss in the IV?
Kind of takes the mystery out of it, but yes. What mystery?
What? You are aware that you're dressed in yellow, right? Like,
Something wrong with yellow, Mr. Wright? That was a good Coldplay song, I'll have you know.
Well, let's have a closer look into that. Yes, there is. Decisively wrong, in fact.
yeah. There you go, dude.
God, I've always been waiting for the time I can say a
But-
color's
but that was
decisively
an
wrong.
Awesome song.
But Phoenix, it's the Green
Deadlock.
Lanterns who are opposite of the Sinestro Corps,
You
not
see-
the.
You see, Shiro, the murder was.
this?
Hold on.
Confusion, doubt. Tell us, what do your elderly eyes spy?
You see, Shiro, the plot is that the murder was done by Valent pissing on the IV. That's the
Even
murder
my
weapon.
elderly eyes can see a problem here, Mr. Valan. Look at that IV bag, for fuck's sake.
Oopsie.
Is it-
It's vomit green.
Yeah, I
shouldn't-
was about to mention.
Isn't this supposed to be questioning the judge?
Paul Magic with that CK, like in the Avalis
Like
games.
Also, Dwibs is bird, Pedro.
Is he again? Oh.
Yeah.
Huh! It would
He's
be
on
hard to call the ivy liquid yellow. And I'm afraid no magic was involved in the taking of this photograph.
No, it was just
Hopefully.
blatant old Photoshop.
Allah the Lacos. Oh, rabbits.
You just carry animals with you wherever you go.
Dude,
It's
that's usual
Magic.
magicians.
Order! What
miss
those
the
things
rabbits.
mean?
Sorry, rabbits are like the trademark
Objection.
of a magician.
Yeah.
This is some
I
kind of
know.
mistake. This cannot be where the plot is going. It just can't, Mr. Wright. It
I
just
want to
can't.
cross-examine the
Yes,
rabbit.
Prosecutor Gavin.
Well, gee, Kirstoff, Clavier, I'm so sorry that I actually provided a contradiction that
witness
makes
mistake.
sense. The greener they are, the harder they fall.
That analogy is stupid, and
Just
so
let
are
him-
you.
Unless it's
Just
a
let him
reference to the
go off.
Hulk somehow.
Oh, that would make sense, actually. I suppose there's no substitute for experience. Oh, I get it. The greener they are is in, Clavier's green, as in a newbie.
Green.
Like a
Well,
green
green, yeah,
one.
green is a color associated with envy.
And a newbie.
I'm sorry, Jova. Have you? Where is the real Phoenix? Because the real Phoenix is not this arrogant.
Your lucky color is yellow, but the IV is clearly not.
All these characters got replaced and not in the good way like me.
Well,
You see, Shira. My ad canon becomes more and more believable. This entire game takes place in an alternate universe that's not canon to the actual main series.
I don't know. Spirit of Justice kind of contradicts that theory.
Ugh,
Anyway,
goddamn,
back to the
that's right.
plot.
And to think, you almost had.
hey.
Squirming like a worm on a hook, no less. Hmm?
Oh.
I see your true colors now. That's why I love you?
What? Ace Attorney
That's all.
Phoenix Wright. It's Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney.
A lot of musical references in
Something
this
you'd
part,
like
huh?
to tell us, Prosecutor Gabby? As far as this court can tell, the witness testimony does contradict the evidence.
And thoroughly at that.
Hair Attorney, I see your true colors. Shining through. Yes, a contradiction. One that I shall be pleased to hand
no.
right back to Mr. Wright. Wait, it shouldn't be Hair Right? Come on, this
He
is
doesn't
just
call
your
him.
gimmick.
I don't think he calls him Hair Right.
Flip-flops between German and...
Remember, he's not actually German. He just studied in Germany, so he clearly doesn't get the actual terms.
How do you mean? How do you mean?
How?
What?
Because the witness has made no mistakes.
Oh, this ought to be good to listen to.
I agree. At a glance, the IV liquid does appear sort of greenish.
Well, from my point
No,
of
that's-
view, the
that's
Jedi
true.
are evil.
Then you're lost!
But I assure you, the liquid itself is quite yellow. Okay? How are you going to demonstrate that?
Wait,
asshole?
I get it. The plot twist
It's
is that...
the color of the bag.
I get it. The plot twist is that we're all colorblind.
Yellow liquid? How could you say that? Someone pissed in it, didn't they?
It was you, Clavier, wasn't it?
As far as I can tell from this photo, it's green.
But don't you
Again,
see, Your
color
Honor,
of bag
this photograph was originally black and white, and it was badly colored. What color is the IV bag itself? Very good.
Uh-oh.
Really?
Well, that is a bout of color
Blue,
refraction.
blue and yellow.
Okay, Teo, aren't IV bags usually transparent?
Usually.
Not all.
Like, there may be some exception, but there's no real rule that indicates, oh, this particular one has to be of a specific color just so you can distinguish it from the others, as far as I recall.
So we can just chalk it up to this is one of those bags that's like that.
I guess.
It's a stretch, though.
Although, it's not that's the thing.
It's not really a stretch.
It's,
There are plenty
it's
of IV bags
possible,
like this
but
or
it's
that.
still an oddity.
We could... I guess we could assume that it's colored light blue because of a certain patient he was. Like some hospitals do the whole color coding with the bags. When you mix blue with yellow, you get green!
This is instantly the liquid's true color, and I just pulled this photograph out of my ass. Somehow. I don't. Where did you get this?
I see.
I see it. I see it.
Your explanation does have the ring of truth to it.
The yellow ring of truth.
Yes.
I prefer orange anyway.
Objection! As I thought. There's no substitute for experience, Prosecutor
look at that.
Gavin.
Fuck off!
See, look at that. Phoenix is actually acting like a prosecution, like the prosecution will do.
Like,
What the hell happened? What?
okay, I've noticed it's a similar problem that I have with Last Jedi. They're making Phoenix not as likable to set up his downfall, so of course you like the newer protagonist better. I didn't like this in Legend of Korra, I hated it in Last Jedi, and I don't care for it here either.
Grave?
Yes,
Made
you've
a
dug your own grave.
mistake.
The liquid in the IV is yellow. Yes. But how did this witness know that?
Oh.
Oh,
because I'm wearing
snap!
yellow.
That's a
a
good
good
point!
question.
He would have had to have seen it outside the bag at some point. It's quite unnatural when you think about it. You did think about it, didn't you? A tongue, baby?
Actually,
Huh.
hold on.
Your Honor! The defense requests an explanation from the witness.
I may have one. Is just the bag blue or also the entire tube?
We'll have to wait and see. At the scene of the crime, the IV liquid appears to be green. Well, actually, yeah, that's a good point, actually. Even on the actual crime scene photo, apparently the tube attached to it is apparently of a similar color. How did the witness know the IV liquid was actually yellow? You know, I just realized Apollo's Corner theme sounds a lot similar to mine.
MG!
Also, they're albino rabbits.
Order! Order! Order!
Though, seriously, listen to Overtaken and Cornered together, and they sound so much like they fit well together.
Mr. Wright, you will explain this at once!
Wait, me?
Gladly.
Wait, me? I literally just asked you for the witness to explain it, not me.
Well, you do it! The witness clearly knew the color of the IV liquid.
Okay, and I literally just said that, and
Like, how did he know that, though?
So I'm sure it means something. But what?
How am I supposed to know? Am I a fucking wizard now? Like,
Only a wizard
Yes.
can defeat a magician. I can think of only one possibility, Your Honor. The witness, Valiant Gramarye,
Isn't a wizard.
has testified that the IV liquid was yellow because...
It looked yellow. Because...
From the facts before us, the answer is clear. And with us, the end draws near. The witness knew that the IV liquid was yellow. Seer? Why? Because he'd seen it before. But not inside the blue bag we see in the photo. He saw the liquid by itself, in a clear, colorless bag.
I suppose he would have had to, but I'm still not clear as to what all this means.
Oh, all in due time, Your
Ask me
Honor.
what it means. Ask me what it means.
Ask yourself, why would he know if he didn't work at a hospital?
He watched Casualty?
That's where you'll find your meaning, Your Honor.
Or Holby City? Or House? Or ER?
General Hospital.
objection. I'm afraid I find nothing. So what if he knew the IV liquid's color? That doesn't prove anything.
What a noob.
Leave the getting excited over absolutely nothing to our teeny bopper fans, yeah? So
Well-
you admit! He admitted it! He fucking admitted it that his fans accept everything over nothing, aka his band sucks. There you go.
Objection!
From the horse's fucking mouth. There you go.
Objection! First, will the court please calm down the Portuguese men over there? And secondly, the IV liquid is the only evidence proving the time of death. A 30-minute hourglass with 20 minutes worth of sand remaining.
Your Honor, Judge, Your Honor, Dwibs, I would like Clavier's latest statement to be added to the court record.
Overruled.
Your claim, Prosecutor Gavin?
It's not, I wish I could, but unfortunately it's not relevant to the present case.
True.
I remember it well.
Like it was yesterday. However...
Well, it was a week ago.
Actually, it was a few minutes ago. There's a critical difference between an hourglass and an IV bag.
He still said it, though.
Wait, I know!
Yes, Mr. Reggie, in the
That
corner
is
there?
alright.
An hourglass uses sand, but an IV bag uses liquid.
And that means...
I'm right?
Absolutely nothing.
As much as it pains me to say this, Your Honor, no.
Oh.
Wah.
Now, where were we? Alright. Unlike the sand through an hourglass, IV liquid enters the patient's body. You can't exactly inject sand now, can you?
Someone's probably gonna try at some point.
At which point, like magic, it disappears.
It doesn't disappear, it just starts rolling in the body's veins. Like,
That it dissolves, basically. However, what
I
if the
guess.
amount of IV liquid had increased? You couldn't tell, could you? After all, there's no way of knowing how much went in.
I could make a really joke right now, but I'm not going to. Objection.
Why not? You've already made plenty bodily fluid jokes.
Let me get this straight, head right. You're saying the pacing right now doesn't allow me to, Jova. You're saying the witness watered down the victim's IV bag? So that is it. He pissed in it. There you go. See, he pissed.
Not
in
with water, but with IV
with
liquid. No,
Oh.
you dirty-minded folks. Seriously, what is wrong with you, Europe? Huh.
Europe is very kinky,
How,
Jova.
how much time do you have, Jova?
Well,
Don't you
yeah,
see
going
the-
off of Xenoblade Chronicles X and whatnot, I guess.
Don't you see, Jova? The piss is the one pissing is Keiji Inafune, and the IV bag is symbolic of the Ace Attorney series. That's what this
Well,
game is. This is what this game is. Keiji Inafune pissing all over the series.
you know, it's weird. For as bad as this game is, I can't bring myself to hate it to the levels of most games that piss on a franchise, if only because, yeah, well, this game has a lot of problems. Maybe it's because we've had a lot of other good games, but this one feels kind of more like a fart. A very loud and obnoxious fart, but a fart that just as well passed. Granted, this game did sort of have to deal with a hiatus to the mainline series, which lasted 5 years, which I didn't experience, so maybe I'm not the best judge of that either.
So that's what we're taking away from this. This game is a fart.
Well, Jova, as someone who actually was there, I can tell it was quite the interesting period to be an Ace Attorney fan.
Oh, I'm curious. What was the mayhem like at the first ever
He has
meh?
a point, Abbott. He has a point, Abbott. I at least would have some difficulty pouring IV in the bag.
Oh man,
The
Very
blood is
true.
low.
stop tempting me, game. Come
You
on.
don't need to be an expert to see the look on the witness face. Who took the cookie from the cookie jar, and who's the one who took the dump in it? He added liquid to that IV to throw at the time of death.
That's the thing, Jova. Sorry. I'm tired of these fairy tales lacking
Oh,
evidence.
no. You do not get to mention fairy tales with magic around me after what I suffered after my trip to England, buddy.
Well, Mr. Wright, any solid evidence to bring us back down to earth?
Gladly, Your Honor. After this case, I'm going to go home and relax. Valiant Gramarye, I'm afraid your magic won't serve you well in a life of crime.
Might I ask what you're? Sorry.
Might I ask what you're strongly suggesting?
The voice was fake as
Wrong
well.
magician, Pedro.
I know.
Magic relies on props, and props become evidence.
To make a long story short, Jova, yeah, that usual period of people being in denial, trying to say, the game is good, but then as it went on, as years went on, people started souring on the game. It's a typical thing where.
Heck, Apologists has had that routine twice, actually, when people at first didn't like Dual Destinies, but now even that's cooled down ever since Spirit of Justice gave a lot more to facilitate Dual Destinies. And you know, I kind of feel sorry for some Apologists fans who legit like the game, but I'm sorry, I've come back to this game, and yeah, it's not an abomination. It's a game that gives you what you... Okay, you're getting what you're paid for. Another Ace Attorney game. But man, this feels like an Ace Attorney game that would have been the first Ace Attorney game. Kind of clumsy. Except, no, the first Ace Attorney game was pretty great and is still considered one of the best games in the series, so dang, what a downfall.
I think if this was the first game, like, not this exactly, but you know how it was handled, I don't think the series would have taken off at all, honestly.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Because a visual novel is difficult to kind of slug through for a lot of people, and a lot of people do side-eye this genre because of what it is. So, yeah, it's a good thing the first game was as good as it was.
Heck, Phoenix Wright, the Ace Attorney series, revolutionized visual novels over in the West. I mean, it was technically an adventure game that had visual novel aspects, but it had enough of them to be considered part visual novel enough. And that's because of how spectacular the game was, which may I remind you, had like double-digit amount of employees in the team for it back in the GBA game, and that's being generous, incredibly. It's arguably that there was only 6 people working on the original game, and yet it was so fantastic.
Also, Shiroi, not necessarily, because, and by the way, this is not just me, even Neptunia fans said that the first Neptunia game on the PS3, the very first one, was terrible. on all accounts, not just story, but also in gameplay. And yet that series went on to become Idea Factory's cash cow.
Heck, there's
So-
even
Because it caters to the Wii.
Okay. To be fair, Shuri, even with all its catering, it didn't work out that well. It only started
Yeah,
selling well with
let's,
the second game.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
Visual novels, very few of them actually do this well.
oh, exactly.
Oh,
Ba-
rabbits for you.
How many rabbits do you have in there?
Also, the
All of
dubs.
them.
Where
You
did they
know,
come-
let's take this into
Trouble.
consideration, guys. We talked over one of the cornered theme moments. That's how bad this is.
I do believe, well, with this being his first.
Well, feel free to recap, Joe. What happened?
Basically, the amount of insulin and yada yada yada, Valiant could have easily have mixed in the IVs or whatnot to manipulate how much IV there was, and thus could also throw off the time of death.
I'm afraid that while there is a doubt as to the amount of IV liquid in that bag, the time of death cannot be proven.
Which means I do believe I'm about to win.
Yeah, too
That
too
brings
good
our
to
trial
improve.
to a close for today.
Oh, never mind, I guess it's just a pause. Well, maybe I can squeeze an extra day out of this. Overall, I guess it's not bad for my first trial, where I'm definitely all on my own. I can do a little much-needed investigation work.
I see there are no objections. Court is.
Oh,
Objection!
God dang.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Wait, was it? Yeah.
Huh?
It was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Give up already, newbie.
Truly. There's no substitute for experience.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, he's doing it again.
God, when he finally cracks, I feel sorry for whichever attorney is gonna face whatever traumas I've inflicted onto him, especially with that
A
word
wor-
forehead.
A word to the wise.
But hey, what's the worst that could happen? As long as he doesn't meet an attorney who's easily teasable. that way.
Underestimate the young, and they'll sweep your feet out from under you.
I should know. I've been that rookie before.
That phrase, I'm betting that phrase sounded a lot cooler in your head. In a way you never, ever expect.
You never see it coming!
You see, I know exactly what you're thinking. That your music sucks
everyone
balls.
does. He's a defense attorney. You're not special.
What's he talking about?
That.
What you're talking about? Fraulein? I'm totally special. You say the witness used the syringe to manipulate the level of the IV liquid.
He's voiced by a guy who, does hospital work.
But there is no proof.
There's no proof he didn't do it either, hence why we need to postpone this for a day. You know, to investigate more, do a more thorough investigation,
Yes, quite true.
due process of
So
law.
since we've established that Clavier plays a song in the courtroom, this means that he's been doing it for years.
Huh? He's admitting it?
Nor was this witness quite as decisive as I'd hoped.
You're fired.
I wish. This, I admit, after all, why linger in the past when the future holds so much?
I don't know. 7 years from now, I don't know if the future's gonna hold
not-
that much.
This is no time for your fucking haikus. Just get to the point.
You have something in mind, Prosecutor Gavin?
You wanna swap out attorneys? I've done it before.
Please. Proof, Herr Judge. I have another way to prove my case.
Really now?
Then why didn't you bring it up until now?
Because he was saving it as his last resort.
With evidence. I have Shutakumi's diary in here.
What's this?
Oh
Yeah,
no.
Day 800. Capcom, will you please leave me alone?
Day 900.
Just
Ghost.
leave me alone.
Day 900. Ghost Trick does not seem any closer to me. I don't know what KJ Inafune is planning, but I hope he really clears up his act, lest we brought much danger and consequences. You know, funnily enough, now that I think about it, because of that, the mainline series of Ace Attorney went on hiatus. Mega Man Legends 3 got outright eviscerated, and even Devil May Cry kinda went on pause for a bit.
The
Huh?
story of his birth, his starting debut, and of meeting his disciples.
Okay.
It seems he intended for the last chapter to end, quite appropriately, with his death.
Is this a story of how is this a story of how KJ Inafune faked everything and made a clean escape?
Yeah.
Wait, that book doesn't say what the reason was, does it?
I don't know, Harold, tell me.
And to fans who think that our KJ Inafune jokes are outdated, Mighty Number 9, the handheld version, still haven't been released yet, so they're still
By
relevant.
the time he's recorded.
And they probably won't be by the time this
And
gets
probably
publicized.
by the time of uploading as well, let's be honest.
Sadly, it does not. What's important here is on the last page.
The last
Of
story.
course. Don't spoil, bro.
Snape kills Dumbledore.
Apparently, the victim wrote in his journal that.
You spoiled that for me, how dare you.
Darth Vader is Luke's father.
Rosebud is the
in
sled.
Yeah.
Dwibs hadn't seen Citizen Kane yet, Pedro.
Theo, everybody knows what Rosebud is.
To be fair, there are for sure people
okay,
who don't
on,
know
on
it.
the plus side, Dwibs, you'll probably forget it, so... Alright.
It's like
yeah,
how...
this is Dwibs, so...
Remember, Pedro, it's like how
It's also-
Shiroi didn't know what happens to Aerith until it was
Anyway,
too
No,
late.
I did! I
Yeah.
specifically said in the LP, alright, so when does she pop Xbox?
Pop... what now?
That means die. That means die.
It's a way
Well,
of
we didn't
saying-
know that's what it meant. We're not
Hold
Welsh.
on. Alright, so what's written in the diary?
Read the very last part of particular case.
Alright, if ever I dare.
Alright, I'll do it then.
Alright.
The game will let me. Hang on.
Diary.
The twist is, everybody dies at the end.
This is the last page. The diary ends here.
Yes, we get it. That's
Wait.
the last page. It's kind of what it meant.
Hold on.
Remember, Dwibs, you're stupid and you need to be treated as such.
What's this? It looks like a page was ripped out.
Good job, Sherlock.
Sherlock, that's Sherlock 2.0 to you, mister. Well now, isn't that interesting?
That's lazy.
When did the Phoenix talk like that?
Well,
I
to be
really
fair...
don't understand
Okay. To be
what
fair,
happened in this
to be fair, he did call himself Sherlock 2.0 in the original game.
No, I meant like, how interesting. Phoenix is like, I'm also make a tally of times Phoenix acts like a twat. I'm on like number 8 now.
It's like
That's what
a...
we're gonna fill this last page with, that tally.
What's he gonna do next? He's gonna start asking people if they like carrots?
What?
I mean, obscure joke. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah, then. That would make sense. Yes. That's odd. An attorney that doesn't know how to defend. Interesting.
It's like a judge who doesn't know how to judge.
But look at what he said before that.
Before the...
This journal may end here, or it may go on. It may go on.
But not
Repetition.
long.
Magnify Grammar intended to write again. Was this written by Neil Breen?
How do you know he intended to write again?
That is... If Zach Grammary didn't pull the trigger...
Dude, he said it may go on. That does not a certainty. I'm surrounded by idiots. I just realized that.
I see that the defense
Alright.
understands the meaning of this. There is indeed a deeper meaning to these two screens.
Look, I'm the Ace Attorney fan, and this is where even I say, no, this is stupid reasoning.
The victim's diary does not go on. It ends. So fucking what? Because Magnify's life was brought to a... No! That doesn't prove anything, you...
I'm sorry, what's
you
going on?
mental-
Okay,
Invalid.
basically, Tio, because the page said that this journal may go on, Clavier's accusation is that Magnify was intending to write more into the journal, but he couldn't because Zach killed him. Which
So
is...
what?
Are you certain that Magnify Grammary wrote this?
No, I'm asking, what's Whatever.
His
So
argument
what?
is that McAfee intended to write again just because he said it may go on. We have nothing to prove it.
Yeah,
But this
yes,
is his
And
argument.
then what does it prove exactly? Like,
It doesn't
That's
prove
what we're
anything,
trying to
Tail.
do.
That's the
But
problem.
he needed a new diary. Whoop-de-doo.
Actually,
Exactly.
apparently it implies that he was going to write more in the very end of it, but
Of course,
Zack
it's not
stopped
like-
him because he killed him. Oh,
According
Of
to
course.
the fact that he intended to make his diary. Yet if his diary ended here, which plainly it did,
you
Of course,
know,
it's not like a dog could have eaten the last page or anything, and it had to be specifically this.
Never mind.
Or that he scrapped it voluntarily because he smooshed all the ink over the page.
Yeah, there's like a bajillion different things that this could mean, and you just picked the one that's convenient for you, you fucking ass.
there's also a possibility that maybe he wasn't actually planning to write again.
how do you like me now? Screw you.
Hey,
Still too
you know, it's
green
fitting.
for your taste? It's not easy being green.
Masterpiece.
Hey,
It's not easy being green,
you know what's fitting? He was just as poorly received as Knack was initially. Like, it is one thing I do notice that, yeah, while Clavier has more of his fans now, back then, I knew he was definitely the least well-received prosecutor
Does
on the
this mean
bar.
there will be Knack apologist in a couple of years?
Well, Clavier
Yes.
does get better in later
Believe it or not,
games.
believe it or not, Tail, they do exist.
More than now, Joe Pedro, I understand that.
Well, Mr. Wright, the witness's testimony we heard was lacking.
As much as the prosecution's latest argument.
Put
Exactly.
together with this evidence, it seems quite sufficient for a
No.
Does it?
No, it
Does
doesn't.
it, Judge? Like, I give up. I'm
You
sorry.
know, it's
Bye.
official. It's official. They really did not care about this because this was executively mandated. They just wanted to get through this bit. That doesn't
Well,
They
excuse
just
it.
did not
but
care.
I don't know. You know, I'm beginning to think all three writers just did not care about this because what about this has actually felt like a passion of love in this entire game? Okay, some of the characters in the second case. Phoenix technically himself, the first case as well, but this fourth case, again, this fourth case just seems to have been made specifically, and not in a sense where it feels, oh, it's earned like Brits to the Turnabout. No. This feels like if you tried to have Brits to the Turnabout without all the special build-up to it, to the point where you have to absolutely force
yes,
it
Judge.
in.
I have some
You have
evidence that returns this diary. Yes, Judge. How about this? This doesn't
Basic
prove
logic.
anything. Yeah, basic logic. This doesn't prove anything. It's not too late to rethink this and avoid more embarrassment. I would say that to you, you
Oh.
fucking.
Oh,
No.
boy. Oh.
What's going on?
Okay.
It's okay. It's now too. Prepare
What?
yourself.
Very well. Please show us your evidence, Mr. Wright.
Remember, what was the reason why Wright
Oh wait,
stopped being an
it
attorney?
happens now? I thought
Yeah.
it was going to happen in the missing day, like say, oh, this event is surmountable, so in the next day of investigation I will contact the forger and make the forgery. He already has one.
Well, remember, Tio, we got a little special piece of evidence that hasn't been used yet.
Oh god damn it, I forgot. From
That was
Trucy.
received from Trucy, just like how Trucy gave Apollo some special evidence in the first case.
I don't wanna.
Only the outcome
I
may not be as
understand.
glad.
Nobody
Hold on.
wants to, Dwibs. Nobody
Hold on,
does.
and Phoenix doesn't know this, so basically he has been set up.
Yep.
I don't wanna. Can I present the badge instead?
Yeah, you know, if that, like, I know. This is one of those.
You know what's the sad part, Jova? He doesn't even need to show this piece of evidence because, as we've already demonstrated, Clavier's reasoning makes no sense. The fact that he doesn't even have to show this piece of evidence makes it even more painful.
God, I
I
forgot it.
don't wanna. Guys,
I
I
hate
don't wanna
the-
press the button.
Okay, okay.
No, no,
Press
no,
This
it.
game,
no.
I don't.
you know, Jova.
Take that!
You know,
Wait.
Jova, I'm gonna have to. Sorry, go ahead.
First, take a close look at this diary.
Something wrong, Jova?
I hate I had to. I hate I had to do that, but
Yes,
it's the only way to
Shiroi.
progress the
Yeah.
story.
Yes, Shiroi, this game.
Okay. Normally, I get it when you're forced to do something for the sake of story, but god dang, if
Fuck
ever I
this-
would have.
fuck
Hang
this
on, hang on.
game.
Let's
Let's
just
do it.
sit
Let's
down.
do it.
I hadn't noticed that. You didn't notice a clear tear.
Basically, the missing page.
Even I noticed that. Come on, Judge. Jesus.
I literally.
That's
cannot-
why we're all still here talking about this.
Just
Nick,
to
just
suffer.
because you say it's stupid doesn't stop it being stupid.
As it just so happens, you know, he doesn't even have to present the page. All he has to do is say, hey, there's a page torn out. Maybe that might be something else.
You know, Jova, I'm gonna have to disagree with you. This may not be an abomination the same way that Sonic 06 or Enter the Dragonfly is an abomination, but it's an abomination for different reasons.
Yes,
Oh,
you know,
I don't believe it.
you know. To be fair, I had forgotten.
Join the club, Valent.
You know, I'm gonna be quite honest. I said that, but that was back when I forgot how cringe-inducing parts like these are. Like, whenever people praise this game, yeah, they talk. You know, I noticed whenever people praise this game, they talk more about, oh, Phoenix was a lot smarter and this was clearly the development, or, hey, Apollo Justice tells an overall neat story. But one thing I notice is that rarely ever do people praising this game ever go down to the specifics. As in, you don't really hear people praising the
Wait,
cases
let
and
me
the
see
finer
that.
details.
Let me see
Like
that.
the most praised I've
Seems face clock will make me wait a while longer.
Sorry, Shira, you were
This one
saying?
isn't-
the most praise I've heard for specific cases are only about the tutorial case of this game, nothing else.
What is Sam
Yeah.
Hill?
And even
would-
then, they don't
This is
have
the
a
con-
lot to say.
Why the judge became
This is the
Texan all of a
continuation of
sudden?
Victim's Diary.
You know, I'll put it like this. This could be a lot more interesting if we were expecting a better outcome. But here's honestly the thing. What was it fans wanted the most? To see Phoenix! You know, have Phoenix get the rise of fame. But no, he has to fail. And I get what you're trying to
Taylor?
do. Alright. Note the torn edge of the page. Alright, I'll try and sum this up more after this. It's a perfect match with the torn remains of the last page in Magnify's diary.
Fuck this.
You know, for comparison's sake, in Turnabout B...
I'm just comparing it now.
You know, for comparison's sake, in Turnabout Memory, you know, it's funny. This reminds me of when Tio had this fear that something like this would happen in Turnabout Memories, you know, like, well, how we would feel no sense of accomplishment. Here's the difference. With Turnabout Memories, though, the reason that worked was because, yeah, we had an idea that something was going to happen that would keep Mia from winning, but we didn't know how tragic it would be and how it would turn out nobody actually won.
Yes, Dwibs?
Well, it is an exact match, but I don't know, it seems quite
Quite
too convenient, don't you think, guys?
Remarkable.
Mm-hmm.
Dwibs, are you trying to say that this is incredibly contrived and nonsensical? Because it is!
To be fair, we
Would you
actually
care to
have gotten
explain what-
something that hints at this beforehand.
Would you care
Doesn't
to
mean
explain
I
what all
like
this
it.
means here, attorney? Because I have completely lost this.
The diary continued after his first visitor came. You know, I'm gonna say this right now. I legit enjoy Turnabout Big Top more than this.
I
Yes.
still don't understand where
Big
those...
Top was just stupid and annoying. This case is literally going out of your way to insult the player.
Big Top was a
That's-
case that was clearly rushed, and as the anime showed, you can actually salvage the idea. This
Feels like it was made by
No,
people
game, you
that
do not get to play this music over this stupid.
it really
Yeah,
does suck that they're playing such awesome music.
I
this
still-
feels like it was made by people who hate this attorney and wanted to see it dead.
Yes,
I
yeah.
tried
still
to take
don't-
two matches out of the other pages.
And allow me to remind you,
Hold on,
Takumi
hold on, hold on,
Yamasaki
hold on.
worked on this thing.
Yeah, it really is weird.
This is, without a doubt, the genuine art of God.
God.
Okay.
Okay, hold on, what
guys,
is it,
me and
Tio?
Me and Dwibs officially cannot.
We have
Go
to,
ahead.
though.
Order!
Trust me,
Order.
no one here hates this part,
Okay,
this
then.
specific part
I'm-
more than I
I'm
do.
sorry. I'm sorry, Teo. Go ahead.
No, I still don't understand how Christoph fits in all of this.
Oh, we'll get to that later.
Well,
We'll get to that.
we'll get to that.
Let me put it like this. Overall, the actual plot details could make for an interesting case. Here's the problem. It's because of the context of the story and
Oh, yeah,
whatnot.
here we go.
Objection. Fine. Is the game over?
No.
Oh,
Oh no, it's just
no.
beginning.
you just couldn't resist, could you, Herr Wright? See, there you go, Herr Wright. See.
Alright, there's another reason why they've been having Phoenix act like a prosecutor. Resist what? Presenting solid evidence?
You're just rubbing it in, aren't you, fucking game, Herr Judge?
Get it? Because like a prosecutor, Phoenix has the rise before the fall and is acting all cocky and whatnot,
Yes,
and I'm just now
possibly together.
realizing the possible
mind the fa-
implications.
Never mind the fact that's incredibly out of character. Might I request we put the current cross-examination on hold?
Excuse me?
I. Prosecution would like to call a new. Why? Just why, Jova? Why are they doing this to us? Why? Why?
But Prosecutor Gavin,
I don't know.
Okay, you didn't care
this
because
evidence overturns the
Okay,
current
let's just do this.
I ask only to put it on hold.
No,
Come
you have to
on.
shout. No, Pedro. Put some. It's got an
I
explanation.
ask only to put it on hold, please. My new witness has a very, very important piece of testimony to give.
That wasn't quite where I was going, but sure.
5 minutes, no more.
Young mister, you will not be allowed to play video games now.
I
But
promise,
Mom!
I promise, Your Honor. I promise. Pinky swear.
Well, if you put it that way, Mr. Wright, what's your take on this?
Well, that's the most fun we've had
The
this far.
prosecution needs a timeout, but whatever, give the baby his bottle.
What can I say except you're welcome?
Well, Your Honor, judging from his enthusiasm,
Is that what we're calling it?
Yeah, I can-
we'll have to hear this new testimony sooner or later anyway.
Well, that's what's going on now.
So, it might as well be sooner.
Yeah, so he
God.
can go home and drink his apple juice.
I actually prefer grape juice, but I do it in moderation.
Then, though this is highly, highly irregular,
It's a shame we only thought of this right now.
we will put the current cross-examination on hold. The witness may step down and not threaten to hit people with that stupid stick.
You know, Dwibs, looking back, I should have had young Clivier have that voice throughout this entire flashback.
No. That would have gotten too annoying.
Anyway, here we go.
I have to agree. I'm sorry.
I had a bad
It's
feeling
good, but
just
I have
then.
to agree.
I have had a feeling about this.
That ripped out page was too obvious.
Gee, you fake!
I mean, yeah, this is honestly a first for Phoenix to get his
Not just
evidence
that.
literally out of nowhere from someone he barely knows. I'm like, dude, Phoenix is
Look,
not
no-
dumb like this.
I don't...
Anyway,
Hold on.
Yeah?
I'm sorry, Taylor, I think you're cutting out.
I should have
Yeah.
known it was a
All
bad
right.
sign all
No.
around. Alright, it's my turn.
Holding trial with no audience is a first, even for me, Prosecutor Gavin. Wasn't there a trial in the third game that...
I beg the court's understanding.
Pedro,
No.
Pedro, nothing. Best,
Sure. But I had to make a judiciary deal with the witness to secure his
Oh,
testimony.
doesn't this guy look familiar? A judiciary deal? I don't like the sound of that.
The details of his testimony may have some legal ramifications, shall we say. You just happen to conveniently... What? I thought it best to contain the information to this...
Okay, to be fair, we do get an explanation why he had this planned out in advance.
very well. And you are the witness, I gather. Who's voicing this guy?
Me.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
What's with his hair?
He's a painter, he's eccentric like that.
State your name and occupation for the record. I think his design is inspired by Albert Einstein.
I can see that.
My name's Drew Bishop. I'm a painter.
Why wasn't the Sean Connery voice?
He screams Sean Connery to me for some reason.
A painter? And you are somehow related to this case?
Well, remember this. I turned I turned Dr. Gray into
James T.
Captain
Kirk?
James T.
Will!
Kirk. James T. Kirk.
William Shatner.
William Shatner.
So what's this question then?
Can you hear me?
Mr.
Yes,
yeah,
I
we
can
can.
hear you.
Sorry.
Go ahead. You were saying?
No, nothing in the sense that Phoenix trusted this new piece of evidence so completely instead of actually looking at it or questioning it.
He didn't look
Yeah.
at it in the lobby, if I remember
So,
correctly.
Drew knows this
Oh,
evidence then, eh?
I knew it well. How's that possible?
Because you just told me, Fox Boy.
Have you seen this diary page somewhere before? Oh, yeah. I mean, I made it.
Dun, dun,
Dun,
dun.
dun.
You know, I was tempted to put that in there, but I wasn't sure about the copyright ramifications, so...
Dear Mission, the victim of the current trial back in the present. You what? You made it? Yes. You might call it one of my works. Along with this giant weather machine I'm working on.
Oh.
The original prosecutor's office received a tip-off. Fuck off. This entire thing is so contrived.
To be fair, the tip-off does make sense in the context when we get to it.
Illegal evidence has been prepared for the trial of Zach Graham.
Illegal evidence?
Who the heck
Allow me
would
to
give a tip-off like that?
Allow me to channel the spirit of the typical US attorney fan right now. I initiated an investigation and found this witness. A painter to the world at large. Drew Misham has another side, you might say.
Well, and that due to legal ramifications, we're not going to expose completely because I guess it's the only way to get him to agree.
He is skilled in making perfect reproductions of certain things.
I hate it when he sounds serious like that.
Major?
Oh, sorry, forgeries in other words. Why did you switch to him then? Forgeries in other words.
Focus on character.
Forgeries? Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Derpy Phoenix. Well, so we are to understand that this page here is...
You know, writers. A fake. Prepared by a certain defense attorney.
Who has exposed prosecutors who do this very tactic? Objection! Hold it!
But you just said objection.
You know, writers, if you have to write your main character out of character in order for a story to work, that means it's a bad story!
Like, there's nothing suggesting that just because Phoenix is on his own, he's this absent-minded.
Ah, the attorney's...
And here's the thing. Yes, Phoenix was a lot more optimistic and trusting than Apollo is, but that didn't mean that he blindly trusted every single piece of evidence. And even still, he often made sure that that evidence wasn't faked often.
After all, it was you who presented this evidence to us, Phoenix Wright.
More
Did you
enthusiasm.
sedate the prosecutor again?
I cannot
Wait,
muster
that's,
any excitement.
Mr. Mission, was it?
Which prosecutor, Shiroi?
Gavin?
Yeah, what about him?
Who requested this forgery?
sedate him
Who
again.
was your client?
Oh,
You
God.
know, this is actually worse to me because, keep in mind, again, this is the first time witnessing this to me.
Yeah.
That
Oh, wait.
I don't know.
Hold on, go ahead, too.
Wait,
No,
he doesn't know.
Hold on.
Wait, what? He doesn't know who the client was. Most of my clients prefer to remain anonymous, even to me.
Well,
Makes
that makes
sense.
sense.
They want to keep all ends tied up as much as they can. I make the items they want and receive my payment.
Also, weren't you supposedly so afraid to go outside when you had to stay always in your room?
Well, let's just say the court brought him here under business. That's the extent of my contempt.
He's being forced to testify too.
You should be freaking out then.
Oh, Tio. It's often the criminals that try to stay calm in situations like this. Innocent people are the ones who panic. It's a fake. Yes, this Grinch leak is 100% fake, I'm afraid. Except for the one bit involving Ken. To avoid just this sort of problem. I always put a special mark on my works.
A watermark.
I did it, signed during mission.
I can say
Allow me to-
without a doubt, this is mine.
Behold, ladies and gentlemen, the fall of Phoenix, one of the most important plot points in the entire chronology of the series, and it's such horse contrived shit.
Like, okay.
Mr. Wright. Oh, yeah, this one. Mr. Wright. You have just presented illegal evidence to this court. My court.
Oh shit.
Okay,
The
for
judge
his,
is gonna
for his,
break out.
for as BS as this is, the writing here does get pretty heavy regarding it.
Can't the Phoenix just say
Oh,
that
yeah,
he's
you think it was
Careless of me.
careless of you.
No,
No.
hang on. I was about to ask, like, do they even try to investigate whether he did it on, like, whether, you know, he ordered this?
More on that later. Basically, Clavier received a tip, an anonymous tip of sorts, saying that Phoenix Wright would have fake evidence. Drew doesn't know the client, but they basically put two to two together and assume that with this tip, it's facilitated. And as you may recall, Phoenix so curiously accepted the evidence that little Trucy found. Now, in a way, this is actually kinda clever, like, it's a mirror to how Trucy provides Apollo the winning piece of evidence back during the first
not
case.
just that. This kind
I
of
feel
thing
bad for
happens.
Trucy. They essentially used her as a pawn.
This
Yeah.
kind of thing happens all the time, also in the original trilogy, so it's no big deal, honestly.
Do you know
Mine
why I don't like it, though?
Why?
Same thing happened to Edgeworth, but he was allowed to stay. He wasn't fired, he resigned. Phoenix just get chucked out, right?
Oh, we'll get to that bit, but
Anyway,
yeah,
what
pretty
I was
much.
saying is, again, keep in mind I didn't knew, and if I just knew Phoenix loses his badge at the end. So I always thought that that it would have been a circumstance where Phoenix knew the situation, knew he couldn't do anything, but knew that the culprit was such a bad person, so he had to do something to make sure he went to jail. So he forged evidence as a result of that. But this is just depressing.
Exactly,
That might be interesting in the bold decision on part of
Mr.
writers. We
Wright.
can't have that.
It
Sorry.
really does show that this case and the first case are like the yin and yang. The first
Jeff?
case... Yes.
Do you have an explanation for yourself?
Okay, can you tell Phoenix?
Save yourself, Phoenix.
From the attorney fan base to the writers of this game.
If I did, would the court hear it? Oh yeah, that's right. The courts hate defense attorneys.
Probably not.
No, court records is gonna eat you alive.
Forging evidence is a serious crime.
See, they don't even try to find out whether it was his fault.
Now, to the
Presenting it in court, a serious mistake.
favor of the writing, this is technically, again, that mirror of how corrupt Japan law system is, and now defense attorneys had all the disadvantages and prosecutors had all the advantage. It's just even
Does
I'm
that
still.
guessing that
also-
was why Edgeworth was allowed to stay.
You
'cause
know
he was the
what? You know what,
prosecutor.
Jova?
Also, think about the prophecy that Phoenix had constantly throughout Justice for All has come true in the worst way possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look,
You know what, Jova? Sorry,
yeah.
sorry. Go ahead.
Look. I mean, this has the ingredients to be a very interesting story, including the build-up that the first case gave it, as you guys have pointed out. Again, the problem is that what exactly is the main focus of this? It's all to catch the killer of the present case,
Yeah.
which is blatantly obvious, but we'll get to that later. Objection! Your Honor, wait.
No, you forged evidence. I'm not listening to you. La 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 la. la.
Yeah, this is basically what's
I
happening.
understand that presenting forged evidence in court is a serious crime to which you didn't even really... Okay, you penalized Francisca for, but that was all just a penalty. But you cannot hold my client responsible for the actions I undertook as an individual. Good old Phoenix. Hey, there's the Phoenix I know!
That's like the one good line they had so far.
I am sorry, Mr. Wright.
But the writers have decided to write me out of character too, so I can't do anything.
Your Honor?
Another close call, I dare say. Fuck you.
Anyway, going back to what
know
you were saying...
You know what, Jova? Again, this is. You know what? I'm gonna pull a tail. I'll take the crossovers ending over this any day. Why? Because for as stupid and terrible as it was, it wasn't. It didn't come out and flat out so much completely destroyed everything that you hold dear when it comes to the franchise.
No, like I said, also it didn't affected the actual main characters. Only the original ones created.
Yeah, this one goes out of its way to This feels like a game that's made to piss us off and insult us, Joe.
I agree.
Maybe that was also the intention. Takumi was so pissed off by this man that wanted to make sure that the fan base would have hated this game so much they would have forgot it.
I see no need to further discussion on this matter.
Like in the same way, oh, I hate this. I don't want any more games for this franchise.
That's not really the
Force
case, actually.
franchise and run, pretty much.
God, no, thankfully. What was actually the case was, again, Takumi had this plan originally with completely original characters, you know. He had a much more developed idea that would have worked better with original characters. Like, okay, let's be honest. Part of the main problems here is that it's with Phoenix,
Wait,
a guy we...
You don't know his name?
Well,
no,
duh,
remember
he's
the
usually a
house.
shut-in. Phoenix Wright.
Remember this, he
Shouldn't
doesn't get out
tell
much.
you.
He doesn't get out much, Dwibs. Whatever. Of
I
all
can't
the
tell you this
problems,
room.
of all the problems this case has, Dwibs, that's the least of our concerns right now.
It's not even really that much a problem. Not everyone would know someone's name, even if they are famous. I have seen and studied many people, but none like you. I'll remember you, Mr. Wright. As you may recall, Vera does mention how her father was extremely happy when it sounded like the Wright agency was taking back up law again. Turns out he may have felt guilty for that.
Anyway, back to this. Though I deeply regret having to declare a verdict in this way,
You're telling me, Judge.
the defense attorney must go on the naughty step, and also this trial is over.
Can my life get any worse?
You have the right to find a new attorney and make an appeal.
Oh, they are doing that,
Okay then.
despite what they just said.
Too bad that never
However,
happens.
this court must...
Well,
Kill you! Your Honor?
It's not Judge Dreadpager. Yes, Mr. Zack?
There is one thing I wish to make clear.
Oh.
You're scum.
Today, in this courtroom,
A man's life was ruined.
a series' reputation was ruined for a few years.
Hmm.
You cannot declare me guilty.
I guess to be fair, okay, never mind.
It is impossible.
what's going on again?
Remember,
He's gonna
Teo.
pull a disappearing
I am
act.
afraid the defendant is quite mistaken.
Remember, Teo, he told us earlier that he had one final trump of a card.
I most certainly have the authority to declare a verdict on you.
But what if I make your gavel disappear? Except, tell me, how do you plan on announcing your verdict
When there is
Without
no
your
trial.
when your defendant does not exist?
Yeah, he's gonna pull a disappearing
Whoa.
act.
Are you serious? Why didn't you do?
Doesn't exist. What are you talking about?
You know, my gavel joke sounds much less of a joke right now. Can we just have the gavel instead? That sounds
Talking.
about this.
This. Yep.
I
Mr.
jumped out of
Enigmar!
I jumped cut out of existence. Ha! Didn't expect that, did you? The defendants escaped. Find them
Well,
quick.
he's obviously guilty.
Bailiff, close all exits from the building!
I'm pretty sure he went through the floor.
Why would there be an opening on the floor?
On the double! He must not be allowed to escape!
Why are we playing this happy music over his overdramatic moment?
I don't know.
Because it
It's
was a
their theme song.
magician's trick and
Because
all
we
that.
don't give a shit.
That
We
day,
don't-
in that courtroom, a miracle occurred.
I wish the miracle never happened.
Teo, let me take a cue from you. That music is the sound of the shits that the writers don't, that the developers don't give.
Let
Isn't
me-
it magical?
Let me put it like this. Yes, this has a lot of stupid stuff. However, I will say this again. This overall is a story that would have worked a lot better if it just didn't have the characters that we know and love attached to it. Like, if it were an original character like Shizuka had originally planned, I wouldn't be hurt as much by this. But no, it's with pre-established characters. That's why, while this is definitely one of my lowest points, it's not the worst to me. Oh god, go on.
Granbury miracle. Anyway, so what happened to Phoenix then?
No verdict was declared. Just as Zack predicted.
Also, yeah, this dude not only very obviously committed the crime, but he also abandoned his child.
And his lawyer lost his job.
Yeah, but shit.
Speaking of which, who the heck was this guy's original attorney? All because Phoenix won a game of poker. And that's how it happened.
So the moral of the story is don't play poker.
The trial of magician Zack Gramery vanished. Along with him for all eternity. We'll never hear from him again.
I don't like the way you said that.
The mysteries that remained behind were all solved, however.
So that's what the chair looks like.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Well, we've actually seen that in Justice for All.
That's the most we're getting out of this case.
But not until 7 years later.
There you go, Shiro. Now you know the truth about 7 years ago.
But
Well,
now, but hold on, folks. We haven't solved
happy?
we haven't solved all the mysteries yet because now.
The truth hurts. Yeah. What about Chris?
Yeah, I was asking, how did Phoenix met Zack again? How did he arrange the counter? Why Christoph killed him?
All in due time. That
in good
trial,
time to
7
remember
years
to-
ago, was the beginning of it all. Remember, we are just in. I think we're in phase 3-1. Oh wait, now we're in the new investigation phase. This is all I know beyond a doubt. The mysteries of the past work their magic on the present. Essentially, if you do certain things in the past, you'll affect the future.
But if you change the
Not-
future, you change the past.
But you'll soon be finding all this out for yourself. I hope everyone's strapped in their seatbelts. Which of Magnifique Gramery's disciples pulled that trigger? Could have been
At this
Bound, could have been Zack.
At this point, I don't
Where
even
did the
care.
vanishing defendant Zack Gramery go?
Be buggered off. Next.
I mean, part of the problem is that, okay, to be fair, most of those aren't obvious, but there's one thing that is so obvious. But again, we'll get to that later. What dark truth lies behind the diary page? And what about the girl who was left behind?
Father of the year, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
I know, right?
And believe it or not, he's not the worst character in this case.
It's not.
What the?
I don't
Maze.
think so.
You see,
I don't-
and
I don't-
Ahem.
and
Again,
that was a. There you go.
I
This
don't-
whole thing
I
was a
don't,
presentation by Phoenix.
the past left us these 4 keys to unlocking the truth.
Well, Jove, I don't think so anyway.
I hope everyone's in their time traveling spears.
What?
But that's not all. I told you there was gonna be time travel! There are 4 keys in the present as well.
Phoenix, we're not in a JRPG. Come on.
Hey, who says JRPGs get all the fun with time travel? When all the questions have found their answers, the final trial will begin. Basically,
Well, I was
just
thinking about the 4 keys, but sure, that works too.
think of it like a game. You do something in the past to unlock the present, aka the future.
There you go.
Think of
Tim.
it
We're literally
as
changing
a
the past
game.
by changing the future.
Well, actually, no. Actually, we're
No, we're
affecting.
changing our view on the past.
I, Phoenix Wright, will be your guide for this game.
And now we even broke the 4th wall.
Hi.
Hi, Phoenix.
That terrible trial saw me present
I know,
as
right?
evidence.
And this is the whole reason why he invented the jury system?
Not entirely. It ended, half finished, when the defendant vanished. What became of me after that? Well,
Tune
what
in
you
next
see
time
is
for
what
the
you
next-
get.
For the next exciting episode of...
And as your investigation proceeds, the answer will become clear.
I don't think even Kyle Herbert would be able to make this exciting.
I don't know, he
Oh,
could.
Jeff Bennett.
Oh, one more thing.
There is something I must tell you. Kyle
Fuck off.
Herbert may actually appear in future games.
Well, yeah, but
As Apollo Justice has his bracelet,
Oh, now I get mentioned in passing.
no, well, Joe, I was
so
specifically
too
exist.
do I have my own weapon of sorts.
well, Joe, I was
Yes, I will.
specifically referencing his
Oh, there you go.
narration of Dragon Ball Z.
My Magatama. Which, come to think of it, I should have had on me. Why didn't he give me any warnings? What does it do, you ask?
Well, that's been Java. It has pretty been commonly established in the previous games and the crossover when Magatama acts whatever,
energy-
whenever the fuck he
energy
wants.
Okay,
Put
okay,
into
okay,
it,
okay,
wasn't
okay.
it?
To be fair, it was Trucy who gave him the page, so the Magatama wouldn't have worked because Trucy had nothing to hide, really.
I was gonna say it would be nice to have the shining light that is Pearl just
You
tell
see,
this to us,
that's
but I
yeah.
don't want her ruined.
Yeah,
so
Jove has a
no,
good
I'm
point.
glad she's not here.
Java has a good point to the reason he had Trucy give it to him.
It should have given the Cyclops when Zack said about the impossibility of him being accused to be guilty.
Well, that's the thing, Tio. He wasn't lying, per se, and he
Yes,
kind
but
of...
he was concealing the method of which he should have been declared impossible.
to be
Right,
fair,
so,
to be fair, that stuff only really works. I mean, only really works if you're hiding something that contradicts what you're saying.
Jesus Christ, this game.
Anyway, this part's gone on for quite a while, so let's end it here. Join us next time when we begin the next phase of investigation with the Mason system.
And I'll be quite honest, this method of investigation is actually pretty cool. Shame we had to waste it on this case.
See ya.
Yeah.
Alright, see ya.
Ta-ta!